Hello everyone, my name is Trevor McCall and I'm from Wild Eye. And today I wanted to share a very special and memorable moment from a recent safari that I hosted. So a couple of weeks back I got back from hosting the Best of Uganda trip, which is a couple of days in Kibale trekking chimpanzees, a couple of days in Queen Elizabeth National Park, and then a couple of days in Burundi tracking gorillas. And overall, the safari was absolutely phenomenal. We had some incredible experiences. But there is one that I really, really wanted to share with all of you. And that happened in Queen Elizabeth National Park. So the the whole reason why we go to Queen Elizabeth National Park is because it's very well known for tree climbing lions. And the whole purpose of where it is in the itinerary is it breaks up the trekking because the trekking can be quite tiresome. So we did 2 chimpanzee treks, then Queen Elizabeth National Park, and then 3 gorilla treks. So by breaking up the trip, it not only creates a diverse trip, but it also allows you a bit of time to see a bit more of Uganda and something different in Uganda. And Queen Elizabeth National Park, firstly, it blew me away. Within our first 10 minutes of being in Queen Elizabeth National Park, we saw a leopard cross the road right in front of us, which was pretty special, pretty nice welcome to the park. We then went on a boat cruise up the Kasese Channel, which is absolutely beautiful. The bird life is incredible, and you see a lot of animals. There's big herds of elephants, big herds of buffalo, and a whole bunch more. But on this particular day, so it is a bit of a travel day. So we travel from Kibale through Queen Elizabeth National Park to Ishasha Wilderness Camp, where we spent 2 nights. It was a really, really warm day, so we took our time driving through the park. We saw a fair amount on our drive, but we got to camp at about, I'd say 5:30 in the afternoon, and from all the excitement of the chimp trekking and the boat cruise and the drive of the day, it was quite tiresome. So we decided to stay in camp, download images, enjoy the camp. It was really, really warm, but absolutely beautiful setting, lovely tented camp. So we actually took the afternoon and sat down by the riverside and had a gin and tonic just to celebrate the trip so far. So just to get back on track with my story, that evening we sat down for dinner and we started to hear a little bit of thunder and lightning, and then it started to rain, and we ended up having an absolutely massive storm, which I absolutely love when I'm out in the field. Lots of thunder, lots of lightning. We had dinner, we then headed off to bed. The thunder and lightning stopped, and one of my favorite things to do, it's the same in the Mara with the tents, is just to fall asleep to the sound of the rain hitting the canvas. And we woke up the next morning. I had a little bit of doubt in my mind because the rain had pretty much been going throughout the night, so I was a little bit concerned about the morning and potential rain for our morning safari. Also what the roads were going to look like and what the terrain was going to be like and what we would potentially see. But waking up, I woke up to an absolutely gorgeous day. Not a cloud in the sky. Our plan for the morning was to set off and see if we could try and find some lions. David, our local guide, spent a lot of time in Queen Elizabeth National Park, so he knows the area extremely well, and he had a couple of special places that he liked to go and look for lions, that he had seen lions countless times before. So that was the goal. Now, heading out on drive, the roads were quite wet, so tracking becomes quite difficult or easy depending on how you look at it. The rain, because it rained, I would say up until about 3-4 in the morning, the rain will cover any tracks of animals that had walked on the road. But at the same time, any animals that walked on the road after the rain, it's very, very fresh. So we had been driving around for, I'd say, probably about half an hour, 40 minutes or so, when David stopped the car and checked out the side, and what he saw was fresh leopard tracks for a female leopard. Now, the area that we were driving around is very, very open, a couple of trees here and there, but very, very long grass, very tall grass. So this meant that tracking becomes quite difficult, and especially with with her movements. So we were driving along the road, and her tracks would go off the road, come on the road, go off the road, come on the road. So it was very difficult to predict her movements. And a little bit of time went on, and we made the decision. We discussed on the vehicle, do we carry on looking for this leopard? We had been driving around the area for quite some time, or do we move on to something else before it gets too warm, and see if we can try and find some lines? And at this point, I felt that we had already committed to looking for this leopard. I thought, the tracks are really, really fresh, so let's give it a go. And so we continued our search for the leopard, and we were driving around, literally scanning tree to tree to tree, when suddenly the car came to an abrupt stop. David lifted up his binoculars, and he spotted a leopard in a tree, miles away. I have no idea how he saw it, because obviously he saw it first with the naked eye, then he lifted his binoculars to confirm it was a leopard. I then lifted up my binoculars to have a look. I couldn't see anything, but he was convinced that there was a leopard in the tree. So, first prize, we found the leopard. Now the challenging part was we had had a lot of rain, so driving off road becomes quite tricky. But David David seemed very confident in his ability, so I backed him, and we decided. Well, we then started to navigate our way off road towards this leopard, and as we were approaching this leopard, we found that it wasn't only one leopard; there was two leopards there, and the second leopard was a lot smaller and a lot more shy. So leopards by nature are very shy and elusive animals. So what we had come across was a mom and a youngster. The youngster was quite nervous of the vehicle. The youngster was keeping very low in the grass, stopping, turning, looking back at us, carrying on walking, looking back at us. Eventually it disappeared into a thicket, which is obviously a safety area for it. They want to make themselves look as small as possible and unseen if possible. So we drove up, and this leopard was not in an ideal leopard tree. I mean, looking around us, there was multiple different trees which were perfect for leopards. So I couldn't quite understand why this leopardess chose this tree. She looked very uncomfortable, so she kept on moving around the tree quite a bit. She offered us some great photographic opportunities. This is just one of the images that I managed to capture. But you can see it's a very, very awkward tree for her to be in. And like I said, she looked very, very uncomfortable, and she was constantly moving around. She then decided to come down the tree. She started sniffing the ground, and we were all trying to work out what was going on. And she came up to a very grassy area, and it was only then that we realized that she had a kill. And what she had done is she had, sometime during the night, with all this rain and thunder and lightning, she had managed to take down a topee. Now, a topee is not a small antelope for a leopardess. And so the advantage for her hunting in these conditions is the thunder and the lightning and the rain masks the sound and the smell, so it's a lot more easy, or it's easier for her to go undetected. And especially in the long grass, she can stalk and keep a low profile and get very close to her prey before springing out and catching the topee. But now, being a topee and the size of the topee, what she had done is she fed a little bit on the carcass, and then she actually started to cover it with grass and dirt. And the whole reasoning behind this is to stop any other predators from finding it, so to kind of mask the scent. So other predators, I mean lions, other leopard, hyenas, birds of prey. So one of the biggest things of covering it with grass and whatever else is available in the area is to stop birds of prey circling. Because once they start circling, if any predators in the area and sees that, they know that there's food there and they'll go and investigate. And obviously this is quite a dangerous situation, having a kill on the ground and also having a cub in the area. So we spent the morning photographing her in the tree. We then decided at about 9:30, 9:45, it was starting to warm up, that we would leave them in peace. You know, the youngster's been hiding from us for quite some time, but it also is part of the habituation process. It's a way of getting the youngster used to the vehicle. We weren't chasing the youngster around. We knew the youngster was somewhere close by, but we didn't constantly put pressure on the youngster. We just stayed in one spot. We spoke, we spent time in the sighting. The youngster could obviously see us, the youngster could see Mom, and then we decided, it's best for us to leave, head back to camp, and we can give the leopards time to reunite, and also if the youngster wants to go and feed on the kill, the youngster can do that too. So we headed back to camp to download images and have a bit of downtime. And that brings us to the afternoon plan. So now we're in a bit of a tricky position, because I went to David and I spoke to David and asked if he had spoken to any of the other guides. And he said to me they had found lions, but the lions were quite far away. So I thought, there's a lot of potential with this leopard sighting. There's a lot that can happen, and there's also a lot that that potentially might not happen. So having discussed this with David, I then went and sat with Jean, Barbara, and Dave and told them about the lions, but I also told them about the leopard sighting. So I know that we had spent the entire morning with the leopard, but there is a lot of things that could happen. We could arrive there and the food could be gone, could be stolen by other predators. The leopards could be gone. The leopard could have hoisted the kill up into a tree, which would have been great in terms of photographic opportunities. We might have gotten a better look at the youngster. So there's a lot of different things that could have happened. So we came to a combined decision that we would go back to the leopard sighting and see what would happen there. And so we headed off on our afternoon safari. And it didn't take us long to get back to the last position. We went straight to where the kill was. The kill was in the same place that it had been fed on. So either mom or youngster or both had fed on the kill, but there was no leopards in sight. So being open with grass and a couple of bushes and shrubs here and there, we thought that they must be there somewhere. So we started to drive around, checking bush to bush to bush to bush. And we were driving, and after about 10 minutes or so, Dave looked back and he spotted the youngster. And this cub was sitting on the edge of the thicket, not far from where the kill was. And as it saw us, or as we saw it, it saw us and it disappeared into the thicket. So we decided to drive around and carry on looking, because we knew that mom wouldn't necessarily leave the youngster alone on its own with the kill there. It's too unsafe. So mom must be there somewhere. So we drove around a little bit more with no success, and then we decided to go back and position ourselves where we couldn't necessarily see the cub. Well, we couldn't see the cub. We couldn't see the kill. We knew where the kill was, but we could see the tree where mom was in the morning, and we could also see the tree where potentially I thought that if mom were to drag the kill and put it up into a tree and hoist it, that's the tree she would use. So we positioned ourselves in a way that we had a good 360-degree view of what was going on around us. And we sat there and we were discussing plans and what could potentially happen or not happen. It was all basically, it came down to a patience game and waiting. And while we were sitting there, there was a moment where it was quiet and all we heard was absolute chaos. It was just, there was snorting, there was alarm calls, and driving into the sighting about, I'd say, 300 yards away was a herd of about 150 to 200 of these cob antelope, and they were all facing one direction, and they were all snorting and alarming and going absolutely crazy. So, being in the position where we were, it was still fairly warm, so I didn't think anything was going to happen at that second where we were positioned. That female leopard, being an opportunistic hunter, may have gone and tried to kill something smaller, or just taken another opportunity and killed a cob as well. It's not uncommon. I've seen a leopard in the Sabi Sands with 4 different impala kills in one tree. So they are opportunistic. So we decided to go and have a closer look, take a closer inspection, and what we came across was this. So these are 2 male cobs. They had been fighting, so it's a rutting season. And what has happened here is that they have gotten themselves in a bit of a jam, and their horns were tangled together. You can see that their horns are not smooth. They've got notches in them. So if they get themselves into a specific position, then it is very difficult to get out of it. And you can see here the one closest to us has a bit of blood on its back leg, so that would be probably a horn injury while they were chasing each other around. But these 2 were stuck, and that's what the cob were alarming at. And I said to the guests at this point now that anything can happen. That sound. Firstly, the sound of them snorting and alarm calling can attract other predators, that female leopard included. Could attract lions, could attract hyenas. The clattering of the horns is also an attractant, so that could lure anything in. So I said, from where we were positioned, we could see both trees that leopardess could use for her kill. Or if she wanted to go up into the tree and relax, we would be able to see from where we were sitting. So I said, let's sit here and wait it out and see what happens. And what did happen was, I just want to show you a brief clip here of what the scene looked like. So these 2 were tangled. Every now and then one of them would stand and try and shift its head around and try and free itself. You can see there's a couple of females in the background. There's a young cob standing behind the 2, obviously watching these 2 spar. But quite clearly you can see they are very well and truly stuck. Not a great space to be in. You can see the others coming to inspect. And so very difficult position for them to be in. And what happened next was that we were sitting there watching this scene unfold when David looked up and noticed a leopard watching from a distance. Now, this was taken with a 500mm, and it is cropped in slightly. So we all thought, okay, well, Mom's now joined the scene. She's heard the commotion, and she is now coming to inspect the situation and see what's going on. Is there another predator in the area? Has the other predator killed something? Or is it the clattering of the horns that got her to come a bit closer and have a look? And what happened next was pretty phenomenal to watch. I'll show you now. This was the leopard when it got into the sighting. You can see the cob have noticed the leopard. They now start jumping around, trying to free themselves. Now it's not about fighting one another. Now it's about survival. Now it's about trying to get unstuck and to free themselves and to get away from the leopard. But now, looking at this leopard, you can see the size difference. Look at the size difference between the 2 male cob and the leopard. It's quite substantial. So normally a leopard, it suffocates their prey, going for the throat. But here now, going for the throat means going against 2 sets of horns. And for a leopard, that becomes very, very dangerous. So what this leopard tried to do was... what we eventually worked out was that This leopard wasn't the mother leopard that we had seen in the morning. This leopard was a young male, and you can see it by the size of his body. So he's still very inexperienced. You can see that by his behavior with the cob as well. He doesn't quite know what to do, and that's why he was kind of bouncing around them. Every now and then he would jump on the back of them, as you can see here. You can see, just have a look at the size difference. Look at the size of the leopard, look at the size of the cob that he's trying to take down. And he wasn't succeeding. And so after a while, we were sitting watching this, and it was continuous back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. When suddenly someone else showed up. This is Mom. This is the mother of the leopard that we had seen in the morning. She showed up onto the scene, and immediately she was walking into the scene, but from a distance she would put her head up, look around. She could see the cob running in circles. She could see the other leopard. Now, she's obviously in quite a difficult position because she's got a youngster close by, she's got a kill close by, now there's a young male leopard close by, and now there's these two male cobs that are fighting. So she moved in, she went straight towards the other leopard and started growling, started pilo erection, so all her hair was standing up. The male leopard did the same thing, they growled at each other, and she was trying to then chase him off. He stood his ground, he lay flat down. She then tried to go and catch the cob herself, and as she went and jumped on the back of one of the cob, they disconnected and they both ran off in different directions. And I've got a photograph here that I want to share with you. Not that one. This was the two cob after they had separated. So you can see obviously a lucky escape for both of them. You can see the cob in front on the right hand side's got a bit of blood around the right horn, and the cob at the back has a big gash on its leg. This was literally the last we saw of them before they disappeared, and they headed off in different directions as far away from danger as possible. And then it became the story of how can this mother leopard now get this male leopard to move. So she started growling quite a bit, showing off her size. Him being a bit younger and a bit smaller than her, made the wise decision to then leave the sighting, and he started walking away very low to the ground. The rest of the cob, the herd, was all snorting and alarm calling at him, so he tried to make himself look as small as possible, disappearing through the grass. And luckily for this leopardess, it was away in a complete opposite direction to where her cub and her kill was. But now in all of this chaos, what actually happened was that two hyenas came. So the hyenas had obviously heard the commotion. They either heard the leopards growling, they could have heard the alarm call and the snorting from the cob. So that drew them into this area. So now she's got to chase off the male, which she's done successfully, but now she's also got to make sure that her youngster's safe. So she's now noticed the hyenas. She went up into a tree to use as vantage points. She scanned the area. So we sat with her close to the tree while the hyenas were moving around. The hyenas were following a scent. They eventually found the topee that she had killed the night before and started feeding on it. And at this point, I said to the guests, we've had an incredible sighting. I don't want us to go closer to the hyenas that are feeding on the carcass, because I know that the cub is close by. I know the cub was a little bit nervous of us that morning and even that afternoon, and I don't want to interfere at all in any way where we frighten the youngster into a dangerous position. So I said to the guests, we've had this incredible experience, something that might never happen ever for us again. I mean, it's a once in a lifetime sighting. Let's rather leave them be and head back to camp and just enjoy the moment for what it was. And it really, really was a special moment to see how everything unfolded from heading out into the morning, in the morning, finding her tracks, trying to understand what she was doing, to finding her, to finding the cub, to finding the kill, to then leaving them be, to come back in the afternoon, to find the kill was still there, had been fed on a little bit, saw the cub, didn't see the mom, then heard all the commotion of the cob going off, snorting and alarming, going in inspecting just to see that two males had locked horns and were stuck, to having a young male leopard come into the sighting and try and take one of the cob down, to then have the female leopard come in and challenge the male leopard without physical contact, to try and take the cob herself, which then separated and ran off and both survived the situation, to then her chasing the male cub away, to her then climbing the tree because of the hyenas in the area sniffing around, to her then watching the hyenas steal the kill from her that she had made the night before. So all in all, an absolutely incredible sighting that unfolded, and it was just amazing to see it pretty much from start to finish. So I really wanted to share that story with all of you. It's a story and a sighting that I will never forget, and I hope to share more of these stories with you in the future. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you all next time.